Hey everyone, my name is Wedge, and yes, it's finally time for Oath of the Gatewatch spoiler season. Leaks are no more, it's time for good old-fashioned confirmed spoilers. Can't you just feel the excitement? We got a lot to cover today. A bunch of new mechanics, support for colorless mana, some tentacle monsters, and a lot more. Hold on to your butts, and if you enjoy spoiler season and our spoiler series, make sure to hit that like button, helps out a lot. The colorless mana symbol is going to play a big role in Oath of the Gatewatch, as many of you had already figured out, cue giant Kozilek monster thing. Of course, that means that giant Eldrazi creatures aren't going to be the only cards using this new mana symbol specifically. Spatial Contortion is one of anything and one colorless for an instant. Target creature gets +3/-3 until end of turn. I mean, if you can reliably generate colorless specific mana, this is a bomb in both standard and limited. Great removal in draft, obviously, but 2 mana to drop something 3 toughness is brutal, especially at instant speed. Again, if you can consistently produce that mana, you'll be good to go. Speaking of colorless, Endbringer is 5 of anything and 1 colorless for a 5/5 Eldrazi. Untap it during each other player's untap step. You can also tap it to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. You can also pay 1 colorless, tap it, and target creature can attack or block this turn. You can also pay 2 colorless, tap it, and draw a card. Holy mother of Ulamog, Endbringer is disgusting. Absolutely monstrously disgusting. Colorless mana isn't going to be that difficult to generate, certainly not difficult enough to explain how this has legit no downside whatsoever. You get to untap it all the time, ping things for days, draw cards, I can't even, standard playable, modern playable, and Tron, and this certainly stands a chance of seeing some commander play, especially in colors like red and white that don't normally get much strong draw. After all, in commander you can always splash into colorless. I don't even know, man, someone hold me. Speaking of colorless again, Walker of the Wastes is 4 of anything and 1 colorless for a 4/4 Eldrazi with trample. It gets +1/+1 for each land you control named Wastes. Wait, that's it? 5 mana for a 4/4 with trample that gets gigantic for playing a waste basic land deck? Yes, please. This is hysterical. Just put me in. I'm so ready for a colorless Eldrazi deck to just dominate everything. This is so dumb. New mechanics. I love new mechanics. Munda's Vanguard is 5 mana for a 3/3 Khorne Knight ally with Cohort. Tap it and tap an untapped ally you control to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Now this is an interesting mechanic. For the record, the cost for Cohort is always going to be the same, but the effects are going to differ, so that's what you need to pay attention to. In this particular situation, Munda's Vanguard is legit stupid in limited play and will win games. It's like Outlast on steroids as long as you have another ally to Cohort with. I'm thinking they'll print something standard playable with Cohort to push the ally theme a little more. Excited to see what that'll be. Another new mechanic we're getting a first look at is support. Support itself is really simple. It's an action like bolster, but here you pick a number of creatures equal to the support number and each of them just gets 1 counter. So shoulder to shoulder is 3 mana for a sorcery with support 2 and draw a card. So you choose any 2 creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on each of them, then draw a card. Alright, mechanic seems decent. 3 mana at sorcery speed to net +2/+2 on your field and draw a card, things could be worse. Support clearly bolsters the going wide strategy Wizards is pushing. Think about it, support, while clearly meant for the allies, benefits little Eldrazi Scions pretty well too. That's just funny. I'm interested to see where this mechanic goes, going wide for days. Comparative analysis is 4 mana for an instant with Surge costing 3 mana. Target player draws 2 cards. Now we've already seen Surge on Crush of Tentacles earlier in the month, but for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a cost reduction trigger that lets you pay less mana to cast something if you or a teammate have previously played a spell that turn. In this case, this becomes an instant speed divination, certainly standard playable. I like it a lot. Granted, the Surge ability won't become relevant until late game. If you need another piece of card draw, especially post-rotation, this might not be so bad. Deep Fathom Skulker is 6 mana for a 4/4 Eldrazi with Devoid. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. You can also pay 3 of anything and 1 colorless, and target creature can't be blocked this turn. I love this card for an intro rare. The Skulker straight up enables its own ability. That's amazing, exactly what you want in a card like this. Dropping this in limited is basically going to guarantee you draw cards every turn, assuming you have the colorless mana. Dread Defiler is 7 mana for a 6/8 Eldrazi with Devoid. You can pay 3 of anything and 1 colorless and exile a creature card from your graveyard to have target opponent lose life equal to that exile card's power. I like this much less than the Skulker, but I really don't hate it. Granted, it is really expensive, and the ability is only useful when you have something in the yard. It can still be good. Another problem I do see, you're basically enabling ingest for your opponent. Not cool at all. I don't know about this one, actually. Reckless Bushwhacker is 3 mana for a 2/1 Goblin Warrior ally with Surge costing 2 mana and haste. When it enters the battlefield, if its Surge cost was paid, other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. This is the kind of Surge creature I'm talking about. I love this. Even if you only have 4 mana, you can easily play a small creature like, say, Goblin Piledriver, trigger this Surge cost, and give everything a boost and haste. By the way, Goblin Piledriver becomes a 4/2 with haste, so it's broken. Reckless Bushwhacker is a great card for Standard. I truly believe this will see play. Given that +1/+0 is pretty big for me. I hate aggro, don't get me wrong, but dang, it's nice. More Surge is on the way. Tyrant of Valakut is 5 colorless and 2 red for a 5/4 dragon with Surge costing 3 of anything and 2 red. It also has flying. When it enters the battlefield, if its Surge cost was paid, it deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Okay, this definitely is an intro deck rare, first of all. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's a bit lackluster to me only because the trigger is based on surging it onto the battlefield. In a red deck, 5 mana might be a bit too much to fire this thing off efficiently until the super late game. In multiplayer, however, during the pre-release, win condition for sure. 5 mana for a 5/4 flyer that lightning bolts on entry? Yes, please. Sign me up for days. Gladeheart Cavalry is 5 of anything and 2 green for a 6/6 elf knight. When it enters the battlefield, support 6. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, you gain 2 life. Holy crap, this thing's gigantic. It's a 6/6 all by itself, and if you have enough creatures, you're adding another +6/+6 to the board. Not only that, but all the creatures you just buffed will give you 2 life each if they die. That's so gross. Obviously a limited bomb. I love the design here. Great way to give additional support to support. A big fan. Is it legend incoming? Jori Ruined Diver is 1 of anything, 1 blue and 1 red for a 2/3 legendary creature Merfolk Wizard. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, draw a card. Merfolk Legendary, that's awesome. Beyond that, I mean, Storm decks in Commander, weird blue-red aggressive decks in Standard maybe, I have no idea. All I do know is that this card is going all over the place in Commander. Remember, you do only get to draw 1 card per turn, but still, it's very, very good. You cast her, cast anything else, boom, a card. It's so much value. Emperor Melek will be pleased, as will T-Born Lumia, as will Arjun. Okay, I'm done. Time for a Mythic land. Yeah, Mythic land. Mirror Pool enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it to add 1 colorless to your mana pool. You can also pay 2 of anything, 1 colorless, tap it, and sacrifice it to copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets. You can also pay 4 of anything, 1 colorless, tap it, and sacrifice it to put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature you control. My goodness, this is like the colorless Superman of lands. With enough mana, you get to copy your best spells or even your best creatures. This could definitely see play in Standard with a bunch of giant Eldrazi, or even in Modern Tron, where you'll have a ton of colorless mana and giant creatures to copy with it if you so choose, of course. Either way, Mirror Pool is easily seen play in Standard Eldrazi decks. There's no reason not to play it. We've been talking a lot about colorless mana. Unknown Shores is a great representation of how the new symbol will be eroded onto existing cards. Now, Unknown Shores shows you that it taps for colorless mana, and you can pay anything to activate its 2nd mana production ability. Actually pretty simple once you get the hang of it. Last but not least, packaging. Yeah, Oath of the Gatewatch packaging is straight up orange. I know, not what I expected, but man, this looks pretty, like so pretty. Need to get myself a ton of these packs, boxes, fab packs, whatever. Not that I wasn't going to do that anyways, but seriously, these colors are intense. Honestly, not what I was expecting. Loving the design here. Well, that's going to do it for today's spoilers. We looked at a lot of cards. Let me know what you think about today's cards in the comments. Which were your favorites? Which didn't you like at all? I need to know. Seriously, the set's looking ridiculous for the Eldrazi. So much colorless. Yeah. Anyways, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Oath of the Gatewatch spoiler information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.